Welcome to episode 2, talking with my friend Esther, who's still a religious Jew, and me, who's not a religious Jew anymore. Esther lives in New York, and I live in the Netherlands, so hence why we meet up on Teams. I asked a bunch of people on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, RedNote, and YouTube what questions they want answered in this episode, and we got a bunch of questions. So one of the questions that you guys asked was, how do you go your whole life without questioning? Just like doing all the rules, following the religion without questioning anything. Now, I know Esther's probably going to say, like, you actually do question. I know when I was religious, I definitely questioned a lot of things, and that's probably what led me to not be religious anymore.
How do you go your whole life without questioning? Well, there's an answer. You don't. You question a lot. Yeah, of course you do. I think that because it's like your way of life until you hit a certain age where like you do have more questions or things are harder, or you want to know, you want to know more reasons for what you're doing. So you ask them and you find out what you need to find out. Judaism, if you're in a good community, usually questions are supposed to be asked. Like I know I have a friend who converted from Christianity, and she was telling me about her time working in, the church and whatever, and she would try to ask questions to find things out, and she was always shunned or turned away or not really given answers that were satisfying enough for her because they were like, not deep enough for her liking. I think in Judaism, you're supposed to ask questions. There's a lot of different answers, a lot of different people who give different type of answers. So you can sort of choose the one that resonates better with you. They're all along the same lines, but like you have a lot of different communities of Jews. So like you have different people from different types of communities give different answers. So you have more like mystical answers. You have more like logical answers. You have all different types of answers for the same question, which could either be confusing or cool, whichever one you choose. But yeah, there's a lot of answers out there. So asking questions is good. For me, I will say personally, I'm not the kind of person that, needs a lot of, I don't know, like, how do I explain? I'm not like a factual, like, I don't care about the sources for, I mean, I do, but like, I more of like to be, I like to have like how do I explain this? I was just telling this to somebody the other day. Nobody understands this. I don't like to ask questions. I don't like to ask questions because I appreciate the fact that some things just we do because we do. Like I appreciate that we do some things because that's what we chose as a Jewish nation is to do some things without asking questions. And obviously, if they were things that were like terrible and horrible and causing me distress in my life, then I would probably ask questions. But a lot of the things that I do or that we do in Judaism, I'm not sacrificing anything to do them. And also over time, I was able to like find the beauty in it for myself. So for me, I'm happy to just do things because that's what God has asked of me. Um, that's very personal. Like, I have friends who are more of like, they never get the right, they never get their question answered and they keep asking and like nobody really wants to talk about it. And like, I'm like, listen, you're like, I guess it's just really subjective. Like for me, that's how I prefer things. Like I prefer to just, we do this because this, and I'm good with that. You know what I mean?
Do you think it's because you're afraid of like the answer, or you just want to like believe in it no matter what? Because sometimes, we don't ask questions or we don't like, if something happens to you like health wise, like you're not going to go to the doctor for a while because you know that you're probably not going to want to know the answer. I've certainly had those situations or whatever, but then, it's better just to have the answer. But I don't know if that's like the same thing with the religion.
I don't think I'm scared of the answer. I just like, I don't know, like I don't have like this like burning desire to like know. You know what I mean? Like you have like the basic like when you're in school as a kid and you're learning like Judaic studies and you learn like the most basic, the most understandable, the most receptive to a young child. They give you like the easiest answer to understand. And for me, that's just enough. And if I have more questions, like I usually just like look it up, whatever. But I don't think it's because I'm scared of the answer. I think it's just because that's the way I work. Like I don't like even with other things that are not related to Judaism, like even with like whatever else, that's not religious, based, I sort of just like a basic answer is good for me, and then I take it as I will. I decide if I like it. I decide if it makes sense. I like to just keep it like I don't need sources and facts and evidence and like all these things to like prove to me that this is something that's beautiful that I should be practicing. I will decide on my own. If I think it's cool and I like it and I think it's nice and I want to find the beauty, then I will find the beauty. I don't need tons of like, to like prove to me. I feel like I'm not with me personally in my, you know, religious journey. I'm not at that point where I need that for all these things. Like I just appreciate it and love it so much. And I feel so blessed to be in this religion that, I like Jewish, that I don't need all that for what I'm practicing, if that makes sense. That could make me sound stupid or ignorant. I don't care. That's just the way it works for me.
Well, it's also like me with my work. Like sometimes I do things the long way, even though I know I can probably do it a slower way, a faster way, but that's just because I want to do it that way no matter what, you know?
Yeah, like
Like
let
I'm
me
just
do it how
used
I
to
want to
doing
do it.
it. That's how I want to do it, and it ain't gonna change.
Yeah.
Okay, so the next question Esther is gonna read out. Esther, what's the next question?
How do you see spirituality? Is this subject of spirituality negotiable? Can you talk to each other about everything, or does faith stop it? So she has a bunch of parts to her question, and also if her parents left her the choice, would she have chosen this religion? She's just curious. So, starting off with the first part, how do you see spirituality? I think that to everyone it's different. I think that it's also a very difficult thing in general, especially in the world nowadays, like to to see the spirituality and things as like everything's so physical, external, materialistic. Like that's just the way it is out there. So I feel like the more that you work on yourself spiritually, like internally, the more you'll see it around you. It's one of those type of things. Like I don't think you can learn how to find it around you unless you find it first within yourself. And I think once you do that, it'll be so crazy that you'll suddenly start just like noticing it around you. I think it's so interesting actually because I was taking like a religious class with a few friends 2 years ago, and it was all about like faith and trust in God. And after I took that class, it was like a year long. It was really long. It was like we read an entire book. And after I did that, I really found it easier to just believe that way about a lot of situations that were happening to me that were like totally stressful. And yeah, I just think that the more you do it on your own, the more you'll see it around you, one of those type of things. What do you think, Sarmalka?
Well, I think the first question we should answer is like, I was thinking like, what is spirituality? Like, because I was thinking like for me, I don't think I'm a really spiritual person, but I do think like, let's say I'm sitting on a beach somewhere and it's beautiful and I'm taking in the ocean or whatever. I do feel like a sense of awe. Or, if I'm cycling through the fields or whatever, like you are pretty like mesmerized by the surroundings. Is that considered spirituality, or what would you consider spirituality? Because I don't think I like feel a soul or feel a connection to God or anything like that. But people do define spirituality in different ways.
I think I would call spirituality like anything that feels deeper than just like the huge, like you could call it deep, you could call it, I don't know, like entranced or meditational, but to me, that's what I would call spiritual. When you're appreciating, your surroundings, when you're appreciating a beautiful natural, like environment, like scenes and picturesque views and all these things that obviously was created. I just feel like that's like on a deeper level. It's like you're feeling something that's not just like, oh, this is nice. Like you're feeling like some sort of peace, some sort of internal calm that I would call spiritual. I think to everyone it's different. Everyone could interpret it however they want, and it's all valid. So if that doesn't resonate for you to call it spiritual, then that's fine. But for me, that's what I would say. Anything that feels a little bit deeper, and more like in a very deep internal sense of calm and peace and like a really deep feeling, then that's what I would call.
I totally don't mind if you call it like spirituality. I don't think it really matters like what it's called. Like if one person
Yeah.
calls it tomato or tomato, like it doesn't
Yeah,
matter.
no, exactly.
But the feeling is definitely the same. I think maybe you're trying to say, like, for what we were talking about, like sitting on the beach and whatever, taking in the background, the landscapes, whatever. Maybe it's more like being like really present, really focusing, like maybe in kind of like a meditative state. Like I recently went to Svalbard in Norway, or Dutch people call it Spitsbergen, and you had like all those mountains out the window. And when you get off the plane, there were all those mountains, and it was just like, wow. Like it really
Yeah.
was wow. So maybe that's kind of like or when you eat that first bagel when you land in New York. I'm so looking
Your
forward to
favorite thing.
it. You know, if you got a bunch of
Yeah.
bagels on Troy, just like that first bagel is just, yeah, maybe that's like a spiritual experience almost.
Maybe.
Yeah, I'm curious what Google says
Okay.
spirituality is. Let's see. I don't know why it gives me like the Dutch suggestion. It says like the Dutch word for meaning. Spirituality, the quality of being concerned with the human spirit or soul as opposed to material or physical things. But a feeling is not a physical thing. So, like, yeah, you could be looking at the ocean and being mesmerized by the ocean, but the feeling you have is not a physical thing.
Yeah, I mean, I just feel like it would be anything that's on a deeper level. Like when you tapping into something deeper, for me would categorize as spiritual, whether it's, you know what I mean? Like even like what you were saying about meditative. Like, okay, so when you're being meditative, to me, I would consider that spiritual because you're tapping into a different part of your being that's so much bigger than just like a dot. You know what I mean? And for me, when something feels so much bigger and so much deeper, for me, that would fall into the category of spiritual. But like we said, I've Google like screw Google. You know what I mean? I feel like I feel like everyone will need to define what they categorize as spiritual on their own.
Yeah, and I don't really care like that much about like exact definitions when it comes to
Yeah,
things like that. Like when I'm working as a writer, yeah, that's
right.
important, but this is not like an assignment for a
Yeah,
client. Let's see what the
yeah.
next question is. If my parents left the religion up to me, would I have chosen Judaism or and the same with you, like would you have chosen to be Jewish? For me, I mean, how do you know that? Like, how do you know what you don't
Right,
know? That's kind of
right. It's such a
hard.
weird question.
Yeah, maybe if I would have grown up with my foster parents who were very, very liberal and very like chill and not crazy and not abusive, maybe I would have been like conservative or reform. But again, like you don't know what you don't know, right? Like,
Right. I can't, yeah, you can't really answer such a question, but I will say, I do have friends. I was mentioning before a friend who has converted to Judaism. She's Mexican. We've been friends for years, and after like hearing about her experience, I obviously have asked her lots of questions because those people who have converted are so interesting to me. It's like, why would you choose to be Jewish at a time like this? Like at a
with all
time
the
like this, but
rules.
also with all the rules, all the restrictions, all the limitations, like you're literally going from just like a complete, like totally just open, limitless world to like one that's like a lot more closed. And to me, it's so interesting that she would choose to be part of this life, part of this, this world, be part of this, group of people. And I've asked her lots of questions and it shows me how much like I do take for granted being a Jewish person because all the things that all the reasons that she chose Judaism and all the things that she loves about it and appreciates, it's so cool. So I'm feeling like, okay, so what if I was in her place and what if I was, like Catholic and whatever, Christian, and I can't remember. I think she was Catholic. But what if, what if I was in a different religion, or what if I didn't have any and I just grew up in a whatever, life, and I could choose whatever I wanted. I would probably do what most people do, which is try them all. You know what I mean? Like
Like
dip
men,
your toe in
like
a little bit with
dating.
everything. Like, I don't know, like see which one feels the best to me, which one is offering the most truth, which one is offering the most depth, which one is feeling like the right thing for me. And I don't know, what that would be, but I think it's interesting that for these people who chose to convert to Judaism, which doesn't happen very often, because it's not like it's, we don't try to convert people. So to me, that's really interesting because why are they here? There must be a reason. You know what I mean?
What do you think of those people that their fathers are Jewish, but their mothers are not? And then they say they're Jewish. Someone asked, what do you think of patrilineal Jews? I think that's the word.
Mm,
So Judaism, right, says that your mother has to be Jewish. Even
yeah.
even if your father's not Jewish, if your mother's Jewish, you're Jewish. If your father's Jewish, but your mother's not Jewish, you're not Jewish. So, like, do you think those people should convert easier because they're like half Jewish, or like, what do you think? I think it's so interesting when someone's like, "Oh, I'm like 30% Jewish because my grandmother was Jewish from my father's side." I'm like, bro, you're not, according
Yeah.
to Orthodox Jewish law, like you're not Jewish. Like there's no
Not
like
Jewish.
30%.
I think that like, especially nowadays, that's not something that like really sits with a lot of people who are, honest, leaning towards the left side. I think it's a hard thing to process when people don't want to be put in boxes, and they're like, they don't want to be told what to do or how it works. But that's the way it works. So, you know what I mean? I don't know. Like for me, it's like that's how it is. Like there's nothing to fight on. Like if your mom's Jewish, you're Jewish. If not, you're not Jewish. Like clearly if somebody's so angered by the fact that they're being told that they can only be Jewish if their mom's Jewish, then obviously they're more Jewish than anybody else. Like otherwise you wouldn't be getting so mad. Like you obviously really, really want to be Jewish, which is beautiful. But like then why don't you go and learn more about it, and learn more about the religion? And I don't know, like that's an opportunity if you're so mad that your mom's grandma, dad was Jewish, and so you're not Jewish, then go ahead, like immerse yourself, go find, go learn more. I don't know. Like I think that the people who are supposed to be Jewish are Jewish, and the ones who aren't, and that's totally fine. Um, you know,
And there are
I,
communities like I think certain conservative and reform communities will accept you as Jewish. So maybe like Orthodox would never accept you because that's like against the Mishnah, which is like the Jewish commentary book. If you're go to more liberal synagogues, like they may accept you, but then you'll also never like have the beauty of the Orthodox part. So it just depends on
right,
like what you want. Or you can like really convert through Orthodox, but then you have to follow all the rules.
all the rules. Yeah.
Yeah.
I will say I've mentioned my sister in the last video, but my sister is she is like doing outreach. She is living in Iowa on campus, and she is trying to reach out to all the Jews who are interested. Um, and she does get a lot of people who are interested in coming to, certain holiday events and other, Jewish things that she holds in her home. And she gets people who aren't Jewish, and it's really difficult because Jews have a certain, like duty and a lot of things that they have to do because they're Jewish. And people who aren't Jewish don't have to do those things. So it's really complicated to like for her to be explaining like how we perform certain things. And then for those people to join in is like, it feels wrong. It's like, no, no, no. Like if you were supposed to be doing these things, then you would have been Jewish. So you're not supposed to do them, and that's totally fine, and that's totally beautiful. So don't do things you're not supposed to. You're not like me. You know what I mean? Like it's just like everyone has their purpose, and if you're not a Jew and you don't have to do those things, then that's not your purpose. Then you have a different purpose. You know what I mean? And I think that's a really beautiful, empowering thing. Like for them, there's other things for them to do. There's other things for them to practice and focus on. And so, it's like weird to watch her like explain to me like, yeah, we have these people who do these things and the other people who do these things, and everyone has their own purpose. It's not like because you're not Jewish, like you don't get to like you'll be fine. You know what I mean?
I was thinking about like how it is as an adult to pick up a hobby. Like I picked up, trying to play piano, and I just wasn't as into it as I thought I was. Like at the beginning, I was really into it, but then I really slacked off with like the practicing and everything. And then I'm like, I'm literally an adult. I can make my own decisions. Like if I don't want to do piano anymore, I don't have to. Like it's not like I'm an Orthodox Jew where you have to follow the laws. Like you
Yeah.
are, kind of like comparing that. Like if you're not Jewish, like you don't have to follow the laws. So like why would you make yourself uncomfortable for like no reason? Like being an adult, like there's certain things that you can just say no, you know what? I don't want to go, or I don't want to do this. Obviously there are other things that you can't escape, like paying rent and stuff. Someone also asked, do I still consider myself Jewish because I'm not religious anymore? I mean, I think because Jews, they believe that it is an ethnicity. It's not like with Christianity, like if you stop practicing, you leave the church, whatever, like you're not a Christian anymore, right? But with Jews, you are Jewish no matter what. Like if you're born Jewish, you die Jewish. That's how they see it. So someone asked, like, do you still consider yourself Jewish? And I think I consider myself like culturally Jewish. Like I'm not religious, but I do, I
You're not
like
observant. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. But like what makes somebody like a religious Jew? Like there's certain things you have to follow, right? Like you have to
Right.
keep kashrus, which is like the kosher, eating kosher. It's very, very complicated. We can't get into it right now.
Yeah.
You have to observe Sabbath, so that means like following all the laws from like sundown Friday to sundown Saturday.
Yeah.
I think there were a few more things that like make you like really a religious Jew. Esther?
Yeah, I don't know them.
Oh,
I don't
I
know. Like
thought
to
like if
me,
you're married, then you have to follow Taras HaMishpacha, which is like the Jewish
uh,
purity
I don't know.
laws.
Is there like officially like a specific, like these few specific that would consider you to be religious? To me, it's just like if you're practicing, then you're religious.
Yeah, but the thing is, like, what makes you practicing? Like, if you don't keep kosher, are you still religious? You wear a sheitel, meaning you wear a wig. You follow the Jewish purity laws in your marriage. You go to synagogue. Maybe follow all the other rules, but let's say you eat pork. Are you still religious?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that those people are still religious. I don't think that you have to be doing everything in order to be called religious. I think in order to be Orthodox and part of like the community I'm in, then yeah, in order to call yourself part of it, like in order to be part of that, then yeah, you have to be doing more. But I think you could be religious even if you're doing a very small amount. I think you could still be religious because you're practicing, you're observing some things, even if it's not everything.
I'm curious if any like Orthodox rabbis are watching this. I think I
Or they'd
like
be like,
chime in on their opinion.
whatever, we don't know what we're talking about.
Yeah, literally. I mean, I grew up always like, I think a few things were always like really drilled into your mind. That was like, keeping Shabbos, keeping kashrus, which we explained before were like the Jewish food laws and the Sabbath, things like that. I mean, I was never married, so I don't have to follow Jewish purity laws or anything like that.
Can you talk to each other about everything?
That's a good one.
Um, yeah. Yeah, I mean, of course. There's no like, oh, well, she's not religious, so I guess I can't talk to her about that. Like, absolutely not. Like me and Sarah Malka we've been through a lot together, and we're friends. There's no like religion, whatever, doesn't affect it. Like, you know what I mean? When you're friends, you're friends.
And I think it's also important to note that I don't ask the questions that I don't want to know. Like if I were to
But
ask
I'll tell her
Esther, like, what do you
that.
think that I'm like, going cycling and driving a car on the Sabbath? She'd be like, obviously, like if you're religious, that's not allowed. But she doesn't care like what I
Yeah,
do.
I literally don't care.
Yeah. But I have definitely had people that like were not okay with my lifestyle. So
Yeah.
I think it depends on who you are. Like there are lots of different people and yeah.
Yeah.
And especially in other sects, like Esther and I grew up in Chabad Lubavitch, which is like, it is ultra Orthodox or Orthodox. You guys always fighting with me in the comments about that. I mean, I grew up in it, so I think I know a little bit better than you guys who grew up going to like
Yeah,
Sunday school. But
yeah.
anyway, um,
Okay.
there are definitely sects that are more strict and that, this would not be a thing
Yeah,
unless we had like a business relationship or something like that.
right.
Does your religion really say that you're God's chosen, or is this propaganda? Does your religion really say that you'll be superior and dominating all other races on Earth in the future, or is this propaganda?
Okay. Well, why don't you start this one off, Sarmalka?
From what I remember growing up, and I've been to Chabad and all that when I was older too. Chabad is like an organization that does outreach, to help Jews come back to their Judaism and find their Judaism. That's what she was talking about, what her sister does. Jews are considered the chosen ones according to Jewish law, right? Like God chose them. And I don't know about like them dominating all the other races. Like I never heard that one.
Yeah, I don't know about dominate. I mean, listen, some people think that Jews rule the world, whatever. Like if we did, we wouldn't be where we are. So, but I don't know. Listen, I also have what I learned as a kid, which was there's a song for it. And when it comes the time of the year where there's a holiday where we received the Torah, which is like the Old Testament, the original Ten Commandments, the stones, and it goes like this. I'm not going to sing it for you, but this is what it is. God went to all the nations and asked if anybody wants to keep his laws. And it was turned down by a lot of other nations. And then when it came to us, we agreed to keep his laws, and we took them upon ourselves. So that is not like straight from the text. Sorry. I'm not a textual girl, but that's what I learned growing up. And we don't like learn things that are completely untrue. So there's obviously truth to that. Whatever it is from text, you could look it up. But yeah, I mean, listen, we as a nation took these laws upon ourselves. God chose us because he came to us and we took them. And so we were chosen. He chose us out of the other ones because the other ones didn't want to follow. So that's what it is. I think that's like totally toxic to be like superior and dominant. I don't think that's what I would call it. You know what I mean? Like why, I don't know where that came from.
And are there really people like staying up at night thinking like, "Oh, I'm superior," or "Why wasn't I chosen?" I don't know. I don't know.
I don't think there's any Jew. I mean, I hope not. I don't think, we obviously aren't walking down the street and when we're walking past someone who's not Jewish, being like, I'm so much better than them. Like, I don't think so. I will say there are times when I just like, I feel so appreciative and grateful that I get to love my religion and that I could find the beauty within Judaism. And I would love for other people to feel the same way because feeling a deep sense of, appreciation and gratitude and beauty from the religion you're in, I feel like it's such a cool and beautiful and peaceful feeling that I would want everyone to feel that way. So there are times when I'm like, I wish everyone was able to feel like I do within Judaism. And whatever, sometimes I want people to see the beauty of Judaism because it's so freaking beautiful. But I'm never like, I don't think, I mean, I hope not, but I don't think I ever feel superior to anybody. So.
And I would like to mention that sometimes you Orthodox Jews, not you, Esther, I know you don't act like this, sometimes Orthodox Jews actually should really sit down and stop acting so pretentious because, for example, on like airplanes, those really Haredi, like really Orthodox Jews, oh my God, they like let their kids run all over the airplane. They act really pretentious, like they own the place. They really make Achil Hashem, which is like embarrassing God's name. And actually, like I actually know a flight attendant who works for United internationally, And she said that like the worst people on airplanes, some of the worst people are ultra Orthodox Jews with their kids. So just because you're the superior race, even if you don't think, that while you're on an airplane or whatever, some of you guys like really need to like reel it in and act like humans who respect other humans. And obviously, like this is not directed at Esther because Esther is
Yeah.
actually a super polite person. But I have seen it too myself, like when on airplanes. So, and I probably did that as a kid, to be honest, because my parents did not discipline us properly. Yeah, they disciplined us in a way that made us terrified of them and want to rebel instead of like just trying to be normal and act like a normal person. Yeah, just because you think you're better than everyone else, um, yeah, you're not the queen of the airplane. I know this is very like focused on airplanes, but this is like really happens really
Sounds like you're
often on
mad.
airplanes. Yeah.
No, I will say I do want to just butt in and say I don't think that has anything to do with religion or feeling superior. I think that's just the way that they conduct their families and the way that they behave. I think it's different. Like if for anyone who's not Jewish out there who's gone through those communities, especially in Brooklyn, Williamsburg, or Flatbush or Borough Park or other communities throughout the world that happen to be like a very concentrated, in those type of ultra Orthodox, very like, very noticeably Jewish people. Um, they're different. The dynamic is different. The way the kids act are different. It is different. It is different, especially from the communities that they live in. They're very like I lived in Muncie for 7 months, and in Muncie, New York, there's a lot of
Wait,
that
wait,
sect
wait.
of Judaism.
Esther,
Yeah.
can you repeat what you were saying? Because it cut out a bit.
Yeah, so I lived in Muncie, New York for 7 months, and when I lived there, there is a lot of that sect, like different sects of Judaism, but specifically the ones that we're talking about, like what do you call Haredi or Hasidish or Litvish, like all the different types of more extremely noticeable Jewish people, like stereotypical. Um, and those families, you will see they act differently. They do. Their kids act differently. The way that they live there in those communities is very free for all. Like everyone does whatever they want. Their kids are running out. They're playing all over. They're playing in the street. They're playing in the driveway. They sort of just and I don't, it wouldn't just like be the first thing I think of, wouldn't be that, oh, they think they're better than they think they're superior, but that's just the way that they behave. It's weird to other people who don't live that way, but that's just the way they are. I think listen, I do think it's weird. I think it's weird because it's different than how I would raise my kids, and it's different than I was raised, but that's just the way they behave in the place that they live. So, I guess if when they go on the plane, they're sort of just treating it like a free for all, I guess that would make sense. You know what I mean?
Do you think it has anything to do with the fact that like they have so many kids that they can't like if you have one or two kids, it's much easier to discipline them, watch them, and care for them than if you have, 7 to 15. Like I grew up in a family of 15 children. Esther also grew up in a really big family. I think you have like 7, 8 people in your family, 8 kids in your
Eight
family.
siblings.
Yeah. So, guys, I know Esther. I just have a really bad memory. Do you think it's because they just have so many kids that they just, not that I'm saying you should have that many kids and not control them, not take care of, not like control them, but watch your kids. Do you think it has to do with, not being able to handle all those kids? Most families do not have that many kids.
I've definitely thought about this a lot and talked about this a lot because I was curious myself, like, why do they behave that way? You know what I mean? It's really interesting to me. In my opinion, I believe that, because they get married very young, they're encouraged to get married around 18, 19. That's usually the norm, for like the time of, when they should be getting married, should be looking to get married. And So a lot of them are getting married at 18, and I'm just thinking about it, like an 18-year-old, that could be, it could be, they could be mature for their age, but at 18, you're 18. So like, how on top of your kid will you be at 18? How much authority will you already have, like you're finding you're at 18, you're not only finding yourself, but you're figure now you have to be a parent, and it's so hard to find the sweet spot of, being harsh and being soft. And so I think that these 18-year-old parents are raising kids and they're still figuring it out. So they might not have a full handle or grasp on how to, teach their kid how to behave in a certain way. And unfortunately, maybe their parents also got married at 18. And so they didn't come from a home where there was a very, strong handle on the kids. And so they're coming from a lineage where that was the way it was, because that was the way it was. And maybe they just, specifically, I would question like safety, like in Muncie where I lived, like you see a lot of kids with that, like a mile away from their parents, or riding scooters in the sidewalk, or by a busy street, or by a curb of the street, and it's like dangerous. It's like, and I'm trying to think like why, yeah, like where are their parents? And I just think that their parents are coming from a life where they did that also when they were a kid, and they're young, and maybe they just don't fully have a grasp on, you know what I mean? And so that's what I think. I don't think that I wouldn't go as far to say they can't handle their kids. I just think that they're young, and maybe their parents weren't like very protective about them, whatever. And so they don't understand. They don't realize. That's what I think.
And they're pretty young, like with the whole thing. Yeah, they are pretty young when they start having kids. And the more you have, the harder it is to discipline. Like, you know what I mean? Even at like preschools and daycares, they have like one person to a certain number of kids, because one person can only handle so much, And if like the mom goes somewhere with all the kids, and the dad is not there, then it's like, what, 10 kids to one mother or whatever. Later on, obviously, like she's not 18 anymore, but yeah.
Yeah. I will say, coming from a big family, I had a lot of siblings. I have a lot of siblings, but I still believe like if the like my parents, like we didn't like, I don't know, we were pretty well behaved kids. Like I don't know if it's like my parents were disciplinary, like it was a healthy home, but like it wasn't, you know what I mean? I feel like if you know what you're doing, then you know what you're doing. I don't think that if you have 12, 13, 14, 15, obviously kids will be kids and things will be more chaotic, but I think if you parent, in a way where, you know what I mean? Like, then you could do it with however many. Like, there are teachers of a classroom of 25 who have control of their classroom because they've found that sweet spot of knowing how to, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
So,
some people are definitely also like born to be parents or whatever. Or,
yeah,
some people are just way, way better with kids than other people.
yeah.
I think before we get into the last question,
Okay.
if you guys can please subscribe so that we can make more videos like this.
Yes. I feel like I also want to say,
Yeah.
can they ask questions that don't have to do with religion? If they're curious about our lives, or like we're religious, but we also have like, I don't know, like if you're curious about anything else, like feel free to ask whatever questions you want. No?
Yes, definitely. You guys can definitely ask questions in the comments here on YouTube, or you can just send me a DM or drop a comment on one of my social media accounts. But it is easier if all the comments and questions are like in one place. So if you guys can just do it on YouTube, that would be phenomenal. I think for the last question, we're going to answer, can you talk about how certain holidays or rituals or practices make both of you feel, to have a comparison between the two? Like, are any of our religious practices or, holidays or whatever, are they comparable to us? Like, a lot of people compare Easter to Passover. In a lot of languages, Easter even translates to like kind of like Passover. I don't really think it's the same holiday. Like Passover, is when we don't eat any like bread and things like that, and we clean our homes completely of chametz, which is like risen bread. I don't know how to explain it.
Yeah,
Like a
leavened
lot of
bread.
rules. I wouldn't say like Easter is really comparable, but yeah.
Yeah, they have totally different origin stories. Like
Yeah.
there's like a story behind Easter, if people even, you know what I mean? And it's not the story. the reason why I did that is because I feel like there's a lot of those holidays which are like, I don't know if they're like how true, I don't know. Let me not say anything because I don't know much about them. So I'm not going to say anything. But what I will say is it's a very different story than Passover. Passover is literally when the Jews left Egypt because we were enslaved and, we had the 10 plagues. And then we were brought out of, God brought us out of Egypt to go and, to be free. So that is obviously a very different story than why people celebrate Easter. And then I feel like also Halloween and Purim. We have a holiday called Purim where we dress up and we give out treats and candy, and it's sort of similar to Halloween, but the origin story is massively different. I don't know so much what Halloween is
I
about, but
think
I
it had to
definitely
do with
know.
like paganism or something, but I also
Is it?
don't really know much about Halloween or Easter.
Yeah, me neither. But the origin for the reason why we celebrate Purim around which is around the same time, is the story of Esther in the Bible, where she married the king and saved all the Jews. So it's definitely, the stories are so different. I don't think they're comparable at all. But like the practices, like giving out candy and dressing up, obviously those are pretty similar.
Yeah, and also like you guys, maybe this question was directed at us specifically, not like Christianity
Oh,
or
like
whatever,
do we?
but I'm not really religious, so I don't really celebrate any holiday religiously. Like I don't go to, first of all, like I'm still like culturally Jewish, so I do like celebrating some of the holidays, like for Hanukkah, where the Greeks destroyed the temple and all the oil in the temple. Like this one flask survived for like 8 days, so the candles burned for 8 days, the oil. So I like lighting the menorah, which is like the candelabra and stuff, and like eating latkes, which are fried potato pancakes and things like that. But whether it's like a Jewish holiday or like a mainstream holiday, or whether it's like a 4th of July, which is American Independence Day, like none of them are like a religious thing for me. Like I don't go
Yeah.
to church. Like I don't mind going to church to hear the music and stuff, but I'm not going because I'm like, thank you, Jesus, pray to God. But
Yeah.
if someone
Yeah.
invites me to mass, I would definitely go just for I see it more as like a cultural experience for all the holidays, and I'm not like super strict on it. Like if I forget to light a candle or whatever, I don't really like, it's not a big deal. Like I don't really care. But I know for you, like it's way more important to like go to synagogue and, do all the rituals and everything.
Yeah, I do. I do everything fully to the max.
And if I were by Esther's apartment during any of the holidays, like I would be respectful. Like I try not to play on my phone in front of her on Sabbath. And,
Yeah.
if I'm out and about with her, I try to dress a little more modestly because she lives in a very religious neighborhood and things like that. Like I'm not trying to be like, oh my God, I hate religion. I did when I was younger, but I'm not that person anymore. I've grown out of it. I want to, and I respect Esther because she respects me. Like a lot of Orthodox Jews, like they do not give a shit about your opinion or your own personality or your own life, but Esther is really not like that. So I actually want to respect her. And I think it's like a nice, fun experience, like one time when I
Yeah.
was at her apartment on the Sabbath, like she had like a whole meal and we, broke bread, her Jewish bread called challah and things like that. And I do see it as like just a time to spend with loved ones like any other holiday. The same thing with
Yeah.
like the 4th of July. I'm not like, oh my God, God bless America. But I just think
Yeah.
it's fun to like, I reason to celebrate.
Yeah. Yes, I agree.
Do you celebrate the 4th of July or American
Yeah,
Independence
I
Day?
do. I grew up celebrating all those things. It's 4th of July, Memorial Day, Labor Day. We also celebrated Thanksgiving. Like we did like, like listen, we live in America. Like I'm not like full on patriotism, but um, like you said, a reason to celebrate. My parents had off from work. If we had off from school, like no problem. 4th of July, let's go buy fireworks. They're fun. We're kids. We live in America. We see it all around us. Like, why not? That's a big thing about the sect of Judaism I'm in, is that we are kind of worldly, most of us. So we, like we do other things that are part of the world as well. So we definitely would celebrate those things. And they're so much fun.
I will say, like, for my own upbringing, we never ever celebrated Thanksgiving or Halloween or anything like that because you're like worshiping idols and other religions. That's how my family viewed it. But yeah, I always did go watch the fireworks. And I can't remember if my dad would do a barbecue on the 4th of July because it's not really another religion. Like it's an Independence Day of a country that my parents came to have a better life. Like my mother was a refugee and my dad came when he was older. So, but it's not like really a religious thing. But for the other holidays, they are like, my parents didn't believe in like worshiping idols and other religions. So like Thanksgiving and Halloween were like absolutely not. And Christmas was, I think for you also, Christmas is like absolutely not because,
Yeah, no.
yeah. But she did go with me to go see a tree, you guys, and she was very chill about it.
Oh yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
because I live in New York, guys. Like literally Manhattan, New York, like around the holiday times, it's so beautiful. It's so much fun. Like, of course, you know what I mean? It's like it's fun. It's not for any other reason. Like it's not for the tree. It's for enjoyment.
Yeah. I think also Esther grew up a little bit more chill than I did. Like my parents also, we weren't really allowed to look at any of the Christmas decorations because you're not like allowed to take enjoyment from like, you know, idols and foreign
Yeah.
religions and that kind of thing. But it does depend. Like as you get older, like you could make your own decisions, like if you want to practice that crazily or if you want to be a little more chill. And if you guys want to see what to do in New York, by the way, I do have a whole blog post. But you can also ask Esther in the comments if you have like anything really specific you want to do, because Esther has lived in New York a lot longer than I have, even though I grew up going to New York and living in New York. She's been in New York a lot longer and she still lives there. So, yeah. Thank you guys for joining. Thank you,
Thank
Esther,
you.
for joining. I hope we can
You're
record
welcome.
episode 3 soon. We need your questions in the comments so that we have something to talk about. Obviously, I could go back to all my videos and have like hundreds of hate comments.
I feel like we should do a video just addressing hate comments. Like, you know what I mean?
Oh, that would be fun. That would be fun. What do you guys think? Maybe that will be the next video. That's actually, you're brilliant. That's a good idea. Yeah. Okay, you
Listen,
guys.
those people want to be heard too, right, Sarmalka?
Well, of course, they wouldn't write it if they didn't want to be heard. And
Exactly.
they want attention. That's why they write those things. I think most of them are just like super depressed people that just like are not happy with their lives, so they have to hate on
Yeah.
other people. But we can make it into a learning opportunity.
Yeah. But I don't know if you know, when you comment on YouTube, you're basically helping our channel. So please keep commenting.
Yeah, you guys, like we are not getting paid to do these videos because this is my channel, but Esther and I are doing this together. And once we do make money, we're going to share the revenue. But right now we are not monetized, so we don't make any money. And maybe if
Yeah.
this
We're just,
turns into like a bigger thing, we can make it a separate channel. Right now it's kind of just like a hobby for us.
yeah.
But yeah, so if you do want to monetize us and help us make some money from this, because this takes time and energy, editing and videoing and all that, and the promo takes time. We do love doing it, but we both have day jobs, so this takes up a lot of time. Just hit that subscribe button and watch the video through. You can even watch the video just like, going to the bathroom or whatever, just have it on in the background. Because in order to monetize on YouTube, you have to watch like a certain number of hours and stuff. So pray that we reach it soon. Anyways, yeah, sorry for that rambling, but we hope you guys support us. Thank you for being here. And
Thank you.
yeah, hit that subscribe button.